Hi, and welcome to some game analysis from me, Simon. And I'm going to be looking at my game from round 4 of the London Chess Classic FIDE Open. And it's actually a game I lost, so I'm still a bit in recovery, against Alexander Lenderman. Lenderman, very strong Grandmaster from America. He's actually the coach of the American national team, and he helped them win gold at this year's Olympiad. So he's a very, very strong player and a good player. And I've really, picked this game because of one concept that my opponent played, and it was a beautiful concept. Okay, I've got a bit of a hangover. I maybe drowned my sorrows a little bit too much yesterday, and I'm a bit angry because I lost still. But you've got to appreciate things when they happen, even if you're on the receiving end of a nasty punch. You probably have to appreciate the power of the punch sometimes, and that's what I'm going to do here. Like, rehab, you've got to go through your emotions, get them out of the system. And my opponent played a brilliant idea in the late middle game. And this is really why I want to show you this game, because it's an idea I haven't really seen before. So it's quite a new concept to me. And it came as a bit of a shock to me, and it was simply just an amazing idea. So I want to share, really, the reason I'm showing this game, share that idea with you. Now, those of you as well who were questioning whether I only have one black T-shirt, I thought I would whack on my psychedelic T-shirt here. And there is a reason I don't normally wear this. As you can see, it looks like I'm in some Isha picture, some weird psychedelic movie when I'm blending into the wall. But okay, it's psychedelic. It's a psychedelic morning. It's a Monday morning. To hell with it. Let's get my weird T-shirt on. And I thought I'd just use a different board today, just for the hell of it as well. One of those days. Okay, so let me show you the game. I'm going to show you it from my perspective. I was black here. Lenderman was white, and my opponent played knight to f3, and already this was a bit of a pain in the bottom for me, and not many people enjoy pains in the bottom, because I'd spent at least 2 hours in the morning preparing for d4, and I had a different idea in mind. I'm not going to share that with you guys now because, in case one of my future opponents is watching this video, I don't want to give away my attack plan. But this is what I spent 2 hours playing. So when my opponent played knight to f3, I was like, damn it! 2 hours down the drain. I could have been sitting in the bar for 2 extra hours and turning into a prune, or doing anything in my life, going for a walk, or even just watching some rubbish TV. Well, okay, that's maybe a waste of time, but I was like, dear. So I didn't want to play the Dutch in this game because I had the feeling my opponent would be very well prepared for it. And I want to experiment with our openings. I played the Dutch for 30 long years. And I just want to mix things up a little bit, Sometimes this needs to be done if you feel like you're getting a bit stale. Throw something new into the mix, just for your own benefit. Get yourself out your comfort zone, make you think from early stage. So I wheeled out d5. My opponent played now g3, and rather going for some solid setup with c6 and e6, which is generally the kind of thing black normally does here, I went knight c6, going for a more aggressive option. And the idea of this is, if white continues with bishop g2, if he's not thinking, he just plays this instantaneous, then I think this is a mistake, because I can go e5. And I've taken over the centre, and, well, I'm clearly at least equal in this position. It's like a reverse perk. So Alexander played d4, stopping this idea. And now I probably already played my first mistake. I moved my bishop to f5. After about a 20-minute think on move 3, which is a bit pathetic, to be honest. Because the thing is, like, a week before playing the London Classic, I'd actually had a very brief look at the move bishop g4 here, and this is what I intended to play. And the idea here is that in some positions I can take on f3 and go e5. So, for example, bishop g2, let's say knight f6, castles. An option now is to go bishop takes knight and go e5 here. And this is a very aggressive way to play, quite in my style. Suits me down to the ground, this kind of position. So this is something I prepared, but I decided over the board after a bit of think not to play this idea. And I went bishop to f5. And my figuring with this was, well, I had this same position in round 1, but with the white pieces. So picture this position, and in round 1, I was white in round 1. I went d4, knight f6, bishop f4, here, here, and here. And you can see this is the same position as I get, but with an extra tempo. Maybe that's quite important, actually. Because here, I thought, okay, I'm going to play this, give this a go, but it does give my opponent more options. My opponent went bishop g2. Okay, I went e6. And now my opponent played c3. This stops any ideas of knight to b4. And I couldn't resist it. Probably a sensible move here would have just been continue developing, but Harry has to play a part sometimes. And I went h5. And against a lesser man than Lenderman, this might have worked well, because actually, you know, if white castles here and just doesn't believe Harry, poor old Harry will sacrifice himself with h5. And okay, this means after a capture on h4, even, not h5, I give up the exchange, so I give away 2 points. But I get a very dangerous attack here, with my queen near my opponent's king, my bishop coming in to shoot down h2, my knight flying into g4, and later on my rook swinging to h8. And if you've seen some of my Blitz videos, then you'll see me, I've tried this kind of idea in Blitz, and it's worked very well. So that was my concept. But here my opponent played queen b3. So he's trying to annoy me on, on the queen side here. And this is quite an annoying move, because I kind of want to castle queenside. So how do I deal with this threat? I mean, if I could castle queenside now, perfect, but I can't. I don't want to play the move b6, because it kind of just weakens my light squares. I don't like the look of this move. I spent, again, another good 20, 30 minutes here already. I shouldn't be spending this much time on move 6. Considering the pawn sacrifice, queen d7. And this was the move I wanted to play. And after queen takes b7, rook b8, this is quite forced, queen here, I was looking at bishop c2, stopping white from playing queen a4 and retreating. And this does create the threat of rook b6, trapping my opponent's queen and winning the queen, because that queen has no squares. But I turned down this idea because I thought white could play e3. And now the queen is going to run back to e2, and I couldn't see enough compensation here for the pawn. As soon as that queen goes home, what am I doing? I'm a pawn down. He has a very solid pawn structure. He doesn't have any weaknesses to attack. I don't really have a development advantage, so this looks a bit suspect to me. So I was trying various ways to make this pawn sack work, but I couldn't. And then I was wondering, well, maybe I should go knight a5. And this was the move I maybe would have played against a weaker player. It's funny how sometimes you change your style of play if you're playing someone who you know is a strong player, which you shouldn't do. It's not a good way to do it. I probably would have played this against a weaker player. And the idea is, if queen a4 check, I go c6. And maybe I go b5, my knight has c4 square. And it's probably about equal, but I didn't really want to sideline my knight here. And my knight can come back into the game like this, but I didn't really want it on this a5 square. So in the end, I settled for rook b8. But of course, there is a slight negative aspect to this move. And the negative aspect of this move is that I can't castle queenside anymore. So if I can't castle queenside, it's kind of making my move h5, and dare I say this, I dare, a rather lemon of a move, because where am I going to put my king? If I go kingside, it's not really fitting into the h5 move, you know. If you're going to go h5, you generally don't want to castle on that area of the board. If you're going to play it early, you want to castle on the other side. So this queen b3 is a very good move. But let's see how the game develops. It's still absolutely fine for me. So knight d2. And now if I go h4 and I sacrifice like this, maybe I could have played this, you know. Maybe it's not so ridiculous. But my opponent can take here. And if I do the same sacrifice, I've given up 2 points. And I say maybe I can play this. Maybe I can. Maybe this is an interesting option. Again, maybe I had a bit too much faith in my opponent. It's not as good as before because white has not committed his king to g1. So I can't launch an attack against the h2 square. And I expect here white will try to castle queenside. But it's also not ridiculous, because if something like knight to f3, I have queen h7, and this is a very important idea in these kind of positions, where bishop c2 becomes a threat, trapping eventually my opponent's queen. And actually, this is quite an interesting idea. So again, maybe if I was having a better day of it, I'd have thrown this in and gone for early complications. And then this kind of makes more logical sense of my early h5 move. If you're going to throw Harry up the board, you've got to be willing to give him to the gods and let him enter into heaven or hell. I don't know where Harry belongs. Where do you guys think? Heaven or hell? I'm not sure. Probably heaven. He's a nice guy. He sacrificed himself for the better good. So I think this would have been more logical. But okay, I went bishop e7. And this now, I fought Fredens this move. And I just wanted to develop simple position. But my opponent now played again a good move. Knight to e5. And the problem with this move is, if I take on e5, which maybe again is an option, my knight on g8, and you've got to always try to think how you're going to develop your pieces, doesn't have a natural way into the game because white has taken over the f6 square. And I wasn't too happy about this with him playing e4, breaking up the position early. I didn't like this position so much. It wasn't to my taste. So instead, I decided to go knight f6 with the idea of sacrificing a pawn. Yes, white now took on c6, and this does destroy my queenside pawn structure. So I expect a more traditionalist player would not go for the setup as black, but I was trying to get dynamic compensation in return. For example, my rook now makes sense, and I wanted to play a quick c5. So Lenderman played the best move, queen a4, and now the point of my concept, castles kingside, offering my opponent the option of taking one of these two pawns. Well, I say one of these two pawns. Queen takes here. Looks very risky, this move. I would probably play rook a8. He has to go queen b7 and now c5. Something like this. And I think I get fantastic compensation for one pawn here. My opponent's queen is in real danger of being trapped. I'm attacking the centre and I must be very happy here. Probably the pawn he should capture, if he's going to capture anything, is queen takes c6. But again here, I was very comfortable because I had this bishop c2 move again, stopping his queen running back home. And it's different to the last variation I demonstrated because his queen's not on a6. So if he plays a move like e3, trying to go queen back to e2, this is a lot slower for him, and rook b6 would trap his queen. His queen has no squares to escape to. So this is my subtle concept. But my opponent played a good move. He didn't get involved in any of these tactical things, and he played b4. I'm sure this is the best move. And this, if I play quite slowly here, there's a danger he's going to get a real grip on the position. He might go knight b3, and my pawns on c6 and a7 are going to be targets for the rest of the game. And I didn't like this. I didn't like the, long-term wise, I'm structurally in trouble here, so I've got to play dynamically. This is the whole point of doing damage to my pawn structure, is to play dynamically. And here, I think I played a good move, a5. And the idea of this, again, is to try to get the c5 break in, try to hit him while he hasn't castled. If queen takes a5, rook a8 traps his queen. So he has to really go pawn takes a5. Yes, this is a pawn sacrifice, but now I played a move c5. And I think it's a good concept, this. I think so far I've played okay. For example, if he castles now, I take on d4. And if he goes queen takes, well, I have a move like c5. And I will win his a5 pawn very shortly with a fantastic position. And if he takes with a pawn on d4, I have this crafty move, rook b4, and I'm going to at least win this pawn back. A nice central pawn with a good position. So I was reasonably happy here. And again, all credit to Lenderman. He played the best move, bishop to a3. Now, this is where I made my first mistake. I was playing too much on instinct. And here, I should have probably played the move c4. With the long-term plan of simply winning the pawn back on a5, which I don't think long-term wise Lenderman will be able to stop, because my bishop does a great job of controlling the b1 square, stopping his rook coming in. And the important idea of c4 is to control the b3 square. So I'm stopping knight to b3, which is a really important idea to stop. And I didn't grasp the strength of knight b3 until a couple of moves later. Instead, I took on d4. My opponent simply recaptured. And for some reason, I had fantasies here of going c5, which is just a completely ridiculous move, I think. I suddenly realised this before I played it. The idea of c5 was, well, you know, if he takes on c5, I wanted to play a move like knight d7. And, you know, I thought, well, maybe this is okay for me. Knight b3. And I you know, this is what I thought at the time. But then I got to the position. I thought, well, hang on a minute. I kind of lost the concept of counting. My opponent is 2 pawns up, and he's going to castle. And I don't really have enough compensation here, surely. So I had to ditch this ridiculous concept of going c5, because what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to play as actively as possible whilst my opponent's not castle. But the position doesn't really deserve me getting these active moves in, because he hasn't got really any weaknesses, so I shouldn't be playing this manner. So I suddenly realised this, and I changed plan at the right moment. I took on a3, and here I went knight to e4, and this is okay, because if I can take this pawn back on a5, I'm going to be perfectly all right. And I was reasonably happy here. Even here, he went knight b3, the best move, because he's got to try to control this pawn. And I calculated all this. I went queen d6. Again, I think I'm quite happy with this move. He took off the queen. The reason I did this, I wanted to control the c5 square, because later on this stops his knight coming into my position. And even here, I was reasonably happy. And now Alex played fantastically here. I really have to say. I mean, you know, because my idea, let's say he castles. A lot of people will castle here. Then my idea is to go knight c3. Attacking e2, and he has some annoying problems here. Let's just say e3. Well, I can slowly but surely just improve my position, and I'm not worried about his extra pawn because he's running out of moves. And I've got bishop c2 coming. I'm going to take this pawn, this knight. He can never go rook c1 because of knight e2. And just think, if you're white here, what moves does white actually have in this position? What actual moves can white play? He doesn't have many moves at all. And I think I'm perfectly happy with my position here. I can always win a pawn back at will. You know, knight takes a2 and then take this one. Not too worried about his one-pass pawn if I ever need to do that. But I think more importantly, I don't rush into winning the pawn back. So this is what I was thinking here. So Alex saw this and he played bishop takes e4. The first brilliant move. And this is a good lesson for everyone. When you have the option of exchanging minor piece and minor piece, simply think, is his piece better than mine? And as we saw in that last variation, my knight would have become a lot stronger than Alex's bishop. It's a much more active piece. His bishop is biting on granite. So he made a very clever decision by taking off this knight. Very simple. I went bishop takes, and here, when I went into this combination, I only considered him castling kingside, which is clearly not the right way to play because his king needs to be in the centre. And here, I would have played rook c8, and after rook c1, bishop c2. And I was again perfectly happy with this position, because my king can come towards the centre, and I'm going to take this one at the right moment and get a very adequate position. I don't think I'm worse here at all. So Alex played a very good move. He went f3. And now the idea is, if I go bishop c2, I get a rather uncomfortable ending here. After king d2, I can win my pawn back, but look at his passed a pawn here. And I didn't like this. I thought this is going to be a really difficult ending to hold, because in theory he's really a pawn up. My double pawns are now just weaknesses. Maybe it's holdable, but I've got to defend for a long time, and this is not what I had in mind. So I thought, okay, not a problem. I'm going to go bishop g6. Of course, king d2. And now I'm just going to go rook c8, rook c1, rook c4. And even here I was feeling very comfortable, because my king will try to come to b5. This is my long-term plan. And again, what I'm trying to do is make Alex not have any moves. I mean, what moves can he play here? Again, what would you do if you're white? You have to put yourself in your opponent's position, and I couldn't see many options for him. My bishop stops a rook coming to b1, so he can't go rook b1. He can't move... what is going on with the paint? Get rid of the paint. He can't move the a2 pawn because he loses his knight. His pawn on a5 is defended at the moment, and if he pushes it onwards, well, I just pick it up, rook a8, and I'm going to be a lot better here. And I thought, okay, this is great. I mean, if he goes e4, I take the rooks off and then win the pawn on e4. So at this moment in time, I thought this position is fantastic. And we're coming up to this brilliant idea he played. He now took on c4, which came as a little shock to me. I took back. And here I was thinking, okay, well, he only has one square for the knight, so he's going to go knight c1. I'm going to play here. I'm not going to be in a rush to take this pawn. This is a key idea, because if I take this pawn too quickly, I lose control of the b file. So let me just demonstrate this. Let's say, okay, d5 is certainly the correct move to play. King c3. And now let's say I go rook b5, trying to rush to take this pawn. Well, then he probably plays a move like a6. I go rook here. King b4 takes, and now a4. And I didn't like this position. This is one thing I have to be careful. And the combination of his king and pawn, very strong here. They're probably winning. But I thought, okay, so as long as I, after d5, king c3, just play the move king f8, this is much more important. I need to get my king over to the queen side. I'm absolutely fine here. Let's say a6, king here, here, king here, 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 a4, for example, king here, here. I look at some position like this, and this is absolutely fine for me, I thought, because my king and rook control his advance. So I thought, okay, this is quite, you know, I've even got chances to win this kind of endgame. But then Alex played this is such an amazing idea, and it's really such a brilliant concept. And he now played one of the most remarkable moves I've faced in an ending, king c3. I mean, just leaving his knight to be captured by my pawn in order to get two passed pawns. And this is it's just a brilliant idea. I mean, you know, credit where credit is due. I have to really take the knight now. You know, I have to take it at some point, because his knight now has a better square to go to. For example, you know, in the last variations, it was going to c1. And on the c1 square, it has no future. But here it can go to a much better square, d2, where it can support the move e4. And it just felt like I've got to take this knight. So I take the knight and he takes. And this is now his concept. This is a remarkable concept. And the reason this works is because my bishop is now in totally the wrong area of the board. If you could magic my bishop over to b7, a8, or anywhere on these four squares, I'd be probably winning here, because my bishop would then control pretty much both of his pawns. You know, my bishop on d5 would control a8, and it would also really blockade the b pawn. But the problem is, my bishop is so badly placed. And I think actually this is just losing for me. I couldn't see any defence now. I mean, I was amazed that my position has slipped so much, but let me just show you how it went. I mean, he's only got 2 pawns to the piece, so it's very risky playing like this, but what a concept. Okay, I played f5, and this looked like a good idea, because I want my bishop to come to this diagonal. And I thought, okay, this is a good try. Alex played fantastically now. a6. Okay, bishop e8. a7. Okay, so first of all, he's put his pawn to tie down my rook. Now, if I play a move like rook c8 check, king b4, bishop c6, because one more move, if my bishop gets to a8, I'm winning the game. This will be winning for me, because my bishop on a8 would stop him doing everything. But it's too slow. He goes rook c1. And here, his threat is to go rook takes bishop and queen. And there's nothing I can do about that. Nothing at all. If I move my bishop, he takes my rook and queen here. So I have to put my rook on a8. And now my rook is totally tied down, unless I can get my bishop here controlling that square. And I thought, well, if he goes king here, I now play bishop c6. And again, my bishop reaches this all-important square, You can see why I put a pawn on f5. It's to control e4. So if I ever need to go bishop to d5, he hasn't got e4. So for example, let's say rook a6, bishop to d5, and my bishop and rook control the position. And I'm probably winning here, I'd say even. Very close to winning, maybe winning. Because my bishop has found its square. So what did Alex play? Rook a6, the move I feared. A brilliant move. Again, stopping my bishop getting to this square. And the tactical justification is, if I go bishop to b5, a move I'd like to play, because let's say his rook now went to anywhere on the a file, my bishop comes to c6 again, I get the important square. But this fails to rook b6, tactical move. And rook b8 check is a threat, and I have to go into what I probably consider a lost ending with rook takes a7 here. His b-pawn should decide matters now. So, after rook a6, he has very easy plan. And it's horrible when you can see your own destiny and it ends in death. That's why, you should never go to a fortune teller and ask him when you're going to die, because, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're more likely to make that eventuality actually happen. But, here, I could see that he's just going to go king b4, king a5, king b6, king b7. And as soon as his king gets to b7, I resign. And it's like, damn it, how can I stop this idea? So I tried the only option, I think, e5. And my idea now is to try to get my bishop to d5. So I have to come this way. I mean, let's just show you what happens if I try to bring my king across. It's too slow. King b4, king here, king a5, king here, king b6. And now, well, there's only one way to stop his king coming here. I can go king c8. But I saw in this position, he now plays rook c1. And he's going to go rook a1. Rook c1 check next, and king b7. And again, I resign. Touchdown. So it's simply a phenomenal concept. So I have to try e5. Now my opponent took on e5, and he starts his king march. King b4. I play bishop f7, and again, an excellent move from Alex. Because here, if he goes king here, well, let's say now I take this pawn first. If he goes king here, everything's fine. Because when he goes king b7, I have bishop to d5 check. And, this stops him. Let's just say king f7, king here, bishop d5 check. And my bishop has found the diagonal. You can see this is what the concept is about. And I'm probably winning here. So he played, again, what he's doing is always stopping my bishop get to this diagonal. He played the beautiful idea, rook a5. I mean, amazing endgame play from Alex. And this stops my bishop getting there. And again, his idea now is just to move his king into b7. I couldn't see any blooming way to stop this idea. My next move is a mistake, but I thought it was, at the time, I was running a bit short of time now, unsurprisingly, with trying to get to grips with these ideas. I went e4, and now he took on e4. And here I was hoping for a move like king c5, because if he plays this straight away, I can take on b3, let's say king somewhere here. And in this position, I'm going to now play, I believe, e3. This gives me some chances. King b7. And now I can, if I got this correct, I can take on a7. Let's say he plays, maybe this is losing actually, now I look at it. I mean, I was thinking of some hope here with bishop c4. Something like this, where I have some hope in the ending. If I can take the e-pawn and just sit there, I might be able to defend this. This is my best option, but why should Alex allow this? And a lot of ideas involve me going e3 and getting my bishop to the e4 square. So let's just look at that line again. Let's say king c5. And now, what about if I play e3 now? This is maybe the move to play. And now king c6, and now bishop g6. So for example, and again, my bishop is trying to get to this square. If he plays king b7, I get my bishop to the square, and I'm close to winning. If he tries to keep up with his tactic of stopping my bishop getting there with his rook, well, I now possibly have bishop e8 check, or bishop here as well. Again, my bishop has two squares it can oscillate to. And if he tries to cover this square, it goes back and tries to find the other square, again, drawing chances. But what did my opponent play? I mean, he is on top form, and he played the unbelievable move. And after this, I realised it's a hopeless situation. Can you see the move yourself? E3. And this just stops my bishop coming to these squares, and now his king is just going to come here. And again, I can see this Mr. Death hovering over me. There's nothing I can do, and it's just completely lost. Okay, I mean, I tried some, I was going to resign here. If I play on, allow him his concept. He just took this pawn, king h7, and now here it comes. King c5, bishop takes b3. Even on piece up, it doesn't matter. It shows you the power of a rook behind the passed pawn. The problem I've had is my rook has been tied down forever. I played, okay, g6. I could resign king b7, and now we can see my bishop has never got to this diagonal. And I have to move my rook. He queens. And, of course, this position is quite easily winning for him. It always was going to be, because his winning plan at some point was going to put his king on f4 and then to, at worst case, sacrifice his rook on this square, winning a winning king and pawn ending. So, I mean, all credit to Alex. He played a fantastic game there. And let's just go back to this amazing moment where he pulled off this concept. And it was in this position where here, I think most normal human beings would just move the knight. But Alex now played this amazing idea, king c3. And it really is one of the most special endgame concepts I've seen. Giving up his knight to allow his pawns and king to move down. And the important thing was to stop my bishop ever getting to this diagonal. So fantastic play from Alex. Credit where credit's due. And hopefully I can bounce back. There's still 5 games to go. So I need to get back into the swing of things now. Let's just have a look at the standings and the pairings for today before I leave you. And you can see them here. And, okay, you can see John Bartholomew, the other famous YouTuber. Well, I mean, more famous than me. Much more many followers is there in the standings. He's going for his GM norm, and it's a very strong tournament. I've got a bit of work to do there. You can see I'm down there. I need to win a couple of games to get back into the mix. Hopefully I can do that. There's still 5 rounds to go, so, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I was disappointed with that last game, but, these things do happen, and when you lose to a concept like we just saw, what can you do? You can go and have a drink down the pub, but then at some point you've got to say, well, you've got to appreciate the beauty of your opponent's ideas, and what a bastard. Now, before I go, there was one funny story I'll just share with you actually. Before the game, I was walking to the board, and a lady came up to me with a chessboard and said, "Simon, can you sign one of the squares on the chessboard?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I signed my name, and then she looked at me and said, "Simon, I got a bone to pick with you." And I was like, "Oh dear." I was like, "Okay." And she goes, "Due to you, my 10-year-old son, he has a favourite expression." I'm like, "Oh no, I know where this is going." And his favourite expression now is something to do with a duck. Do you know what I'm saying? I was like, "Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this." Yeah, okay. So he says that expression, which I sometimes say in Blitz, to do with a duck, and it's not a very nice thing to do with a duck. The RSPCA would not be happy with me if it ever came to fruition. Let's put it that way. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm sorry about that. What can I say? I haven't got the silver tongue of John Bartholomew. I do let my expletives slip out on occasions, and then I made a quick exit. So that's how I got prepared for the game yesterday. By, I felt like a naughty school kid being told off by the teacher. But okay, she was very nice, and it was I do put age warnings on some of my videos. The analysis videos are clean-ish, I think. I better check, but anyway. Okay, well, thank you for watching that. Please like, please subscribe. I don't know if I have many more time to do more videos, because obviously I've got to do some preparation, and I'm commuting in, so it takes me a good couple of hours to get there and get back each day. But if you like that video, good, just let me know. And you've got to give credit to Lenderman for his fantastic play in that game. What a git. a nice git. I don't mean that. He's a lovely guy. He is really a lovely gentleman. Obviously, I'm just really calling myself a git for losing. So, yeah, I can't really blame the opponent when he plays like that. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya. Wouldn't want to be, yeah. Maybe I would. Don't know. Bye.